As studying at home becomes more common during quarantine, you need to think about how your study setup makes you more effective or less effective at getting things done. Depending on motivation alone is a poor way to achieve your study goals. My name is Dani, Kilani. I'm a first-year medical student in Canada. I've learned how to optimize my study techniques throughout my undergraduate degree and into my medical studies, and continue to optimize them to this day to achieve the best results. In this video, I'm going to tell you how you can use the Fogg behavioral model to optimize the way that you approach studying. We'll look at the individual, meaning yourself, the environment that surrounds you and influences the way that you study, as well as the triggers that are involved in motivating you to study. The Fogg behavior model looks at behavior change. We're going to use the model to look at how we can better approach studying and motivate that behavior. In the Fogg behavior model, a person needs 3 things to perform a behavior. First, they need to have motivation. Second, they need to have the ability to actually do what we're hoping they'll do. And third, they need the triggers to push them to perform that behavior. You can modify 3 things to make yourself more likely to perform a behavior. The first is the individual, which we can change by teaching them how to perform a behavior. The second is the environment, which in studying we can think of both as a digital environment as well as the physical environment that surrounds us while we're studying. The third is triggers, which could be reminders coming from your calendar. It could be an upcoming exam that you're aware of, or even just seeing an advertisement of someone studying. Before we get into the details, give this video a like. It helps me out on the YouTube algorithm, and please subscribe. I'm going to be putting out more videos like this on how you can improve your study techniques, as well as things related to the pre-med life and my experiences as a medical student. I'll also even give some tips on how you can increase your chances at admission to medical schools and how you can do well academically. Now back to the video. The first factor we'll look at modifying is ability. The Fogg model says that we are fundamentally lazy and that we tend to only perform behaviors that we think we have a high ability to perform. Alternatively, the behavior could also be highly simple, making it easier for us to perform, and therefore considering ourselves to be of high ability at performing that behavior. I think the reason why a lot of people struggle to use Anki is because it takes a lot of ability to even get using the application. From the get-go, it looks complex, it looks difficult to make the flashcards, and people are a little bit taken aback by it. As a result, most people don't stick to the flashcards they've made, they don't do the daily repetitions, and because those flashcards are often difficult and material that you've not seen before, your ability at performing and getting those flashcards correct is going to be low, making it less likely for you to continually engage in that behavior. We can get around that by ensuring that we've reviewed the material that we're doing flashcards on before starting the flashcards. That also helps us gain an understanding of what we're learning before doing flashcards on it. I personally find that using flashcards as a way of gaining understanding of a topic is quite difficult. You're better off going through a lecture, actively listening to it, than doing the flashcards without understanding the content first. And that's the key word. It's understanding first and then memorization later. You'll also notice that I didn't talk about using things like note-taking, which can be fairly easy to do, but tend to be fairly inactive in the way that we learn and therefore are ineffective. We should also think about the physical effort that it takes to start studying. Making it easy to access your notes on your computer through an organized filing system is helpful. You should also keep everything that you might need while studying close by. That way you don't have to get up to go get it, and that's going to reduce the tendency that you have to feel like you don't have the ability to perform the studying behavior. I also want to talk about Anki one more time. If you're making flashcards, make sure that you're keeping them simple. The idea is that you want to make sure that you're testing essentially one thing on each flashcard. That reduces the time that you spend on a card. If you're able to keep the amount of information being tested per card minimal, it reduces the likelihood of you making a mistake if you actually understand what you're being tested on. That way you end up getting through more cards without having to redo them, and that makes you feel like you're better at doing these flashcards. That'll keep you motivated to keep going, and it goes back to that reinforcement of your individual ability at doing flashcards. Lastly, I want to talk about using the Pomodoro technique, which involves studying for 25 minutes followed by a 5-minute break in the most traditional form. You can find various apps like Tomato Timer or Forest that will help you to implement the Pomodoro technique in your study strategy. The reason why you want to use the Pomodoro technique for your study strategy is because it puts your studying into smaller chunks. When you make the study time smaller, it seems more accomplishable. Studying for 25 minutes is less daunting than studying for 4 hours. And because you've done that, you'll be more likely to feel like you have the ability to accomplish the studying goals that you've set out for yourself. Now we'll talk about your study environment. You want to make sure that your study environment is clean and has minimal distractions within it. That means silencing your phone, putting it in a place where you don't necessarily have it in sight, while also minimizing the distractions at the table. This also includes your digital environment. Having multiple tabs open on your computer, and even just being able to easily access social media can lead you to tangents that start off as a few minutes long and end up taking half an hour. Modifying your environment also means making it more comfortable for yourself. If you have a nice chair, desk, and maybe some water, you'll be more likely to stay for longer while studying. You won't feel the need to get up if you're feeling back pain or the need to stretch as often, and that'll keep you studying and in a flow state. If you're using Anki, you can enhance your digital environment as well using add-ons like the background add-on, which I'll link in the video description. With Anki, you can also start to incorporate the use of various pictures. Including images in your flashcards on Anki can help you to stay focused by giving you an idea of what the flashcard is talking about, while also giving you a visual cue that you can relate to your understanding of the topic. There have been times when having that image on a flashcard has helped me during an exam. I've been able to visualize the picture and be able to get questions right because of it on exams that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So the key here is to improve both your in-person environment by keeping your workspace clean, while also improving your digital environment by minimizing distractions and improving the way things look. If your environment is aesthetically pleasing, you'll be more likely to stay studying for longer and minimize your tendency to become distracted. The last modifiable thing that I want to touch on is triggers. Triggers work best when you can start to habitualize studying into a specific period of time of your schedule. If you're using Apple or Google Calendar, make sure to add an alert or a notification when you plan on studying, and that way you can get a notification 10 minutes or 15 minutes before you need to start studying, and that will allow you to start to get into that mindset that you need to start studying. It also provides you with a reminder, and without it, you might just forget to study. Triggers can also be external. By having friends that keep you consistent, you can help keep yourself reliable. Having friends that study with you on Zoom at the same time can hold you accountable and keep you motivated to study for that very reason. By having that consistent schedule of Zoom study time with your friends, you'll have that trigger to continue studying. The only downside here is that friends can be distracting when studying over Zoom. So make sure you've outlined your expectations. I also use deadlines or due dates to keep myself motivated. I use Google Calendar to give myself deadline reminders 5 days, a week, and 2 weeks before something is due. That way I feel a sense of urgency to get something done, and it stays on the top of my mind. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it valuable, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. To reiterate what we've covered, we've talked about how you can change your behavior using the Fogg behavioral model to increase your likelihood of studying. As we've discussed, that involves modifying the way you study to make yourself more skillful at it, changing your environment, as well as setting up triggers that remind you to study. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and check out the others. I've done one on how I've used the principles of advantage to improve my pre-med extracurriculars, and another on how I've set up my calendar as a medical student. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.